Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to our first live post-game show of 2014, and certainly the playoffs. It's been a little while. I might be a little bit rusty, so help me out here if I forget things that we need to do or cover. But first off, let me just say that it's been an incredible ride so far, and we are, as far as I can tell, the most popular online channel devoted to the NBA analysis. And so I have to thank you guys for being along for the ride and making us that because it's been just fantastic. And without you guys, I wouldn't be interviewing NBA players and coaches and giving you all that insight that I can do. So thank you. Now let's get into some analysis, shall we? First off, I'm wearing my glasses, if you excuse me, but I no longer can read the screen that well from this far away. So I figured I would, help myself out and not be squinting so much for you guys. Don't forget, if you have questions, you can tweet us directly. I've been using the hashtag #BBallShow. That would help us sort these things out, as I'm doing it as a one-man band tonight. So I say let's just jump into some questions first and see what you guys are thinking, and we'll go from there. Then I'll offer some more analysis. So let's see here. Our first bunch of questions is, let me get over here to this. So let's scroll down. So let's see here. Will Johnny Football get drafted before Derrick Rose returns? I'm vaguely aware there's somebody named Johnny Manziel, and he's a quarterback, and maybe he's not very good. I don't know. But I suppose he got drafted maybe by the Cleveland Cavaliers, so it sounds like he did get drafted before Derrick Rose returns. Here's the next question we have here. If I coached OKC, what kind of offense would I most likely run and why? It's a great question, and most of you guys know, or I imagine you guys know, I'm a triangle offense coach. That's what I coach no matter what I do, where I go. So I would run it, and I think it would be awesome. In fact, I think it would help Russ if he would embrace it at all, because we can get him a little bit more focused on how to use his wonderful athletic ability in a more purposeful way and avoid a lot of those reckless, crazy, flights to the hoop where he misses and gets into foul trouble. So, that's what I would run. Let's move up to Adam. Has a good question here. Do you still think Stotts is a good coach? He hasn't shown ability to make adjustments all year, especially on D. Well, that's not really true. If you noticed today, his big adjustment was Wes Matthews guarding Tony Parker. And believe it or not, it kind of worked for a minute there where Tony Parker started out 1 for 5, and it didn't look so great. In a way that there was something there, even though Parker had a bunch of assists. It did change. It made the Spurs think about it, which is really great. That's all you want, really, when you think about it. And so that's what you think when you talk about when you want to make an adjustment and mix things up a little bit. So that was a good adjustment. Other than that, what I really liked about Stotts was that he stuck with ice defense. So what makes that exciting for me is that I believe in ice defense. I believe it works and you can make it work. So what does that mean exactly? That means that even if it's not working initially, you stick with it and you convince people that you convince your team that it's going to work. And by the way, there were moments where even John Barry was saying, "Oh, this isn't working. He can't drop down the big guy." But you know what? It wasn't about that to me. It was much more about they almost got steals and they were forcing long twos. So they were doing what they needed to do. They just couldn't get a good with them, and that was the bigger thing in my mind when I saw that. So if you just hang on for 1 second, as I'm looking for the there's a spot on the on NBA.com where they can give you the box score sortable by quarter, and I'm forgetting where that is. If anybody knows, you can feel free to tweet me the link to where you can change. It's in the stats section somewhere where you can see the box score and you can change it from first quarter to second quarter. So if you see that, let me know. I can't remember where it went. Anyhow, all right, let's move on to our next question if we have one here. Is there any way to stop the Spurs offense? White Mamba asks. That's a great question. They can't sustain what they do, and as we've seen, in the game itself, they had 17 points in the third quarter, and excuse my screen here, and that was that's sort of the natural progression of you can't sustain that kind of that kind of incredible poetry and ballet. It's just impossible, to do it like that. And so basically, you know, and also the defense has something to do with it. So what they do is, what I would do if I were coaching against it would be, I would get in their way. I would disrupt them by bumping them physically, maybe take a hard foul or two, nothing to hurt anybody. But you have to be able to disrupt the rhythm. You can't let them cut through the lane without getting a body on them. And Wes Matthews, I think, tried it. I think they told him he threw down. I don't say he threw down, but he pushed down Splitter on a steal, and on a screen. And I thought for a second there that it wasn't really necessary, but it seemed like that might have been one of those instances where, you know, okay, let's get these guys off their rhythm. The problem is Splitter isn't the guy to do that to, really. You want to do it to Parker or to Kawhi or any of the guys who are Danny Green, the guys the shooters, the guys who don't like a lot of contact. You know, that's the only way you can do it because they are that good. And unless you're really long and really fast and can recover, because make no mistake about it, you are going to be recovering on these shots. It's not going to be like you're in great position all the time because they never stop moving. So if you're long and you can, you know, really fly around the court, you can get some disruption of that. But right now, the Blazers don't really have that. Plus, they're not deep enough to give up that kind of effort on defense. That's the other problem. So they're kind of in a bind here. Now, let's move on. Let me just tweet this out so let everyone know we're in here and the live show is up. And feel free to retweet it. Let everybody know. Let's get a bunch of people in here. Live show is on now. Get in here. All righty. So let's go to some of my screenshots. Let me really quickly check to see if anyone has that link for me. Nope. Okay. So let's start off with some of my notes that I had that I was kind of talking about. Then we'll go quarter by quarter and see the difference in the changes. So you know, and then you know what we're also gonna do? We're gonna do some live breakdowns of plays, and let's do that first. What do you say? Because I tagged a few plays as I was going through the game as best I could. So let's see how this works. If I can scrub through quickly and find these clips. So first off, can we all see that? Okay, great, we can. So the first play I wanted to show you was how Batum got a 3 early in the first quarter by helping one pass away. We talked all about it, and I'm going to show you what I mean. Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see the time. So 9:40. Okay, let's see if we can see it here. Okay. So at 9, this might be a little stutter, but that's okay. I'll stop it for you when I need to show you what's happening. Okay. So we see here penetration to the middle. Aha, that's it. Okay, so let's go back for 1 second. So watch this as we have Damian Lillard get a pick and roll going to the right. The strong side is now going to be the right side of the floor. Okay. So watch what happens here. Okay. Freeze it. Here is Batum. He is in the right corner of the strong side, and Danny Green is guarding him. He cannot be the guy helping one pass away. Duncan should be getting over there to help, and I believe he does. He's kind of pinned behind Lopez, but he could still get a hand up on that. Danny Green must stay home, especially if his man is in the corner. That's a big problem. So you see what happens? Green helps way all over. By the way, what he should be doing is stunting. Step over with the right foot, plant it, and then push right off and get right back on Batum. Doesn't do that. In fact, turns his back, and Batum gets a wide open 3. So that's why we always harp on not helping one pass away, because that pass is way too easy for anybody. Now, right after this, the Spurs come down. Maybe it's a timeout. Let's see if I have to scrub. But they run one of my favorite plays, which is called the elevator play for Kawhi. And it's funny because it seems like the guy hits the 3 more often than not, amazingly enough. So let's watch what happens here. They do a quick. Okay, this looks just like their motion weak, where they send Tony Parker through on a shallow cut to the weak side, and then normally you'd see Kawhi screen for Duncan, and then Splitter would come down and screen for Kawhi. One day I'll get one of those big arrows or something I can draw on, but right now for what we have. But watch what happens, and I think Duncan screws it up a little bit. I think Duncan really is supposed to be up on the high post here because you see him at the end kind of jump over there and go, oh, I'm supposed to be there. But here comes Splitter, who sets the screen, and that becomes, look, there's Duncan late, kind of forgetting, and then closes the elevator doors. Nice, easy pass. Kawhi knocks it down. I can't say enough great stuff about Kawhi Leonard. He was so good all game, and when he gets aggressive like that, they are almost impossible to beat. Let's go on to 2:38 left in the first quarter, where we see another example of where he's really the most dangerous. And this is the issue here. Let's see here. Let me go back another couple seconds. when Kawhi Leonard gets the rebound, he's such a really good rebounder with big hands. He can snatch that. What you have to be worried about is he can just take off and go down the court and not be stopped. There are very few players in the NBA that can really grab a rebound, take off, and you need two guys to get in front of him to form a wall, or else he's scoring. And I think that Kawhi Leonard is slowly getting into that conversation. Guys like Derrick Rose used to do it. LeBron definitely does that. Durant is like that, although he doesn't get enough rebounds for me. So watch this as Kawhi comes around. We're going to see him snatch a tough rebound. As I remember, it was tough. Let's see here. Okay, well, good box out on Batum. Grabs that rebound with his big mitts, and he can come right down the court. This is what's exciting about it. Now, because he pushed it like that, Mo Williams jumps out of nowhere and picks him up, which is a real big mistake by Mo. And he does a lot of these kind of dumb mistakes often. So now he just backs him down, something he never would have done before, over the left shoulder and scores. I mean, that is exciting to me when a guy can grab that rebound and come all the way down the court and score. I mean, it's really, really difficult. And by pushing it like that, you get those weird matchups like Mo Williams. So let's now go on to our next piece of multimedia here. This is a real big process here where I'm going to share with you the first quarter stats that I have lined up here. So let me grab that screenshot here. So after one, you can see here that it was a 3-point game, but I wasn't really sold. I felt like the Spurs had control of the game. The Blazers shot, let's see here, to our next freeze frame here. You can see here the Blazers shot 42%, which wasn't great. And they hit a couple threes at least, something they hadn't done much of. And they turned the ball over 4 times, which is a little too much, especially against the Spurs. You don't want to give away those kind of those turnovers. But they did okay, and they got 12 rebounds. Who led them off here? They had Nick Batum came alive and hit the 2 threes and hit another shot from 2. So he did nicely, and he got 4 rebounds. And he's just a real steady guy and real important. If he does well scoring, they usually do better. But you got LaMarcus Aldridge just can't get on track like he was against Houston and was shooting poorly at 2 for 6. And then Damian Lillard 2 for 5. And then Will Barton was a sort of a surprise insert. He did okay in that blowout. And so it looked like Stotts wanted to give him a run. And he hit 2 shots. They were kind of way too fast and maybe a little bit out of control. But he hit them, and it was a little bit of a spark. Without him, I don't know what would have happened. So now the Spurs, they were humming along, getting great easy shots. And if you juxtapose their shots with the Blazer shots, you'd see that they were getting a lot more easy ones. And led by Kawhi Leonard, 5 for 6 with 2 threes, 3 rebounds, a steal, just really covering a lot of those bases. And then you had Manu Ginobili come in for 7 minutes and again, 3 for 4. And with one assist and a steal, so really just causing havoc out there. And it's got to be concerning that they're playing like this and they're shooting that well when someone like Tony Parker is 1 for 6. It's very concerning. And Duncan had 4 points on 2 for 4, 2 rebounds, and that's below his output. So that's what gets scary when you're going against him. Oh, here's the next. I tweeted this picture out. I don't see any churros in this picture. Do you, Chuck? And this is the point I was making. These are the guys. Tony Parker and Tim Duncan are not listed here as the the leading scorers at this point of the game in the second quarter, and that was got to be really troubling to Stotts when he sees that. Another one we grabbed. These are just screenshots I grabbed. They're all kind of in the queue. At halftime, look at this. The Spurs were at 70 points, 58% field goals, 7 for 10 from 3-point land. Just you can't stop that. And they were wide open threes too. 19 assists and 17 fast break points. It's just that's a lot to handle for anybody. And as you can see, that was the big quarter, 41 points in that second quarter, and they took a huge lead. And let's visit here what we have. So now this is the halftime. Uh-oh, it says halftime. This can't be halftime, can it? Yes, it is, I guess. Okay. Let me make sure. Yeah, at halftime. Oh, you know what? Damian Lillard had 15 points at halftime. Huh? They were pretty quiet. I guess he had 11 points in that second quarter, and he had 2 assists. So he started to attack more and did okay. I'm sorry, I was so surprised. It didn't seem like he had that many points at half. And Batum hit a couple more shots. But you can see LaMarcus Aldridge still struggling mightily, and it might just be sort of the residual hangover of the first round where he shot so well and hit so many tough shots. It's crazy. So it's hard to know if he's regressing to the mean, because certainly Ashik is a good defender, and Dwight are very good defenders. Splitter is a good defender, but I wouldn't say he's better than Asik. But he's really having trouble here. The other argument is that Aldridge has a lot more work to do on the defensive end, arguably, because there's so much passing that's going on in the Spurs, and he's got to cover it. Because I think he's guarding Splitter, and that's not as much of the issue, but he's got to move to cover for everybody else that's getting blown by. So let's go back to some more notes I had on the game and see what we have here. So some other notes as I wrote them out in real time. At 7:30 of the first quarter, Kawhi hits a three, and they go up by, that was their first run, and Terry Stotts did not call timeout. And I was impressed. Phil Jackson doesn't call timeouts, doesn't like to call them, lets the team figure it out, especially on the road. And they actually came back and kind of got settled. Tony Parker missed a layup, though, that would have given him an even bigger lead. So they escaped with that, but then Batum came down and hit a three, and they kind of got stable again. So that was impressive by Stotts. That's some cojones. Now, Portland seemed a bit rattled. I think Lillard is just off a little bit. He's still, this is the second round for him of again, all new playoff experience for him, and he's going against, the creme de la creme playoff team. So it's a real concern for Portland that they have to rely on him, and every minute that goes by, the very least, gets him more experience. So that's a big thing, that he should get better as the series goes along. Let's see here. Spurs go tiny with. Oh yeah. So the Spurs went tiny. They broke the game open with Diaw at the 5, Kawhi at the 4, Manu at the 3, Bellinelli at the 2, and Patty Mills at the 1. It's a very strange lineup. I'll have to check and see how often they played that lineup during the year. But Diaw was awesome. Hit like 7 straight points or something like that, and Lopez couldn't stay with him. And I think that's when Stotts got caught with his pants down a little bit. He needed to get him out of there and go small as well. I think he thought maybe that he'd get some block shots and some rebounds, but it did not work out well for them at all. And Diaw is sneaky like that, and he can play big. Let's see here. Where are we? Oh, and then with about 8 minutes to go in the second quarter, Pop went the complete other direction and went big again with Duncan and Splitter. And then all of a sudden they started blocking shots and snaring rebounds and just making life hell. And so there was no answer that Stotts could offer. They went small and they hammered him, and they went big and they hammered him. It was a real just nightmare. And remember, what we've seen from these teams that are that good is they know with a big lead how to put their foot on someone and put them out of their misery. And even though it got close toward the end, the Spurs never really lost control of that, and then they ended up breaking it apart even later in the game. So let's go back and let's see what else other questions we have here, shall we? Let's glide right over to our questions. Here we go. So where do we leave off? LaMarcus Aldridge was so unstoppable in the series with Houston. What happened to him in these past 2 games? So again, it could be regression to the mean, and it could be, like I said earlier, on the defensive end, I think he's got to work a little bit harder, and that's tiring him out. And those are all things that factor in. So I think that's really what it is. And then he made a lot of really tough shots against Houston. We could do a montage of all of Asik's reactions after he keeps hitting shots in his face, and so it's hard to keep that up. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let me scroll back down. Okay. What is the difference between the first and second halves of both games for the Blazers? It's a good question because the Blazers also outscored the Spurs in the second half of the first game. If I recall correctly. And in this game, the Blazers outscored the Spurs by 3 in the second quarter, and they were only outscored by 1 in the fourth. So it's obviously much closer in the second half. So there is the darn autoplay that I can't stand by NBA.com. Autoplay is so 2009. So that's a real issue. That's something they can hang their hat on, because remember, the Spurs did what they were supposed to do, which is win 2 games at home. So the Blazers can hang their hat on the fact that they were able to hang tough with them, but what they're also going to know is that they can't afford to give up that early lead, because once that happens, it's too much of a hole to dig out of. How long until Leonard officially becomes the next Scottie Pippen? Not long. And he might get to Scottie Pippen's level before Scottie Pippen did. It took Scottie Maybe it was about his third year or so before he got comfortable. I think he was an all-star maybe in his fourth. Someone have to check that for me. Maybe it was third. So he's right there. And I always like to compare him to Scotty because he's really close to being, the same kind of long, great defender. I think his shot's better than Scotty's was in the same point of their careers, and so that's a real big thing for him. Scotty was a better passer, without question, and so that's the next step up for him. But I don't know if Kawhi is going to need to be as much of a passer going forward because he's going to need to score for them, and boy, is he good at it. Is there an effective way to stop Leonard? Yeah, I mean, it's a real question. You'd still want to give him the shot and still make him prove it. Because that's, you don't want him getting into the lane. He's so good to stop and pop, and he's got such long arms, and he jumps well. So, your best bet is to give him a cushion and see if you can get him to shoot that long outside shot. Coach, do I see a Spurs Heat rematch on the horizon? Absolutely. I think these two teams are destined to meet. I will say, though, that I think the Wizards, I want to watch them in Game 3, but the Wizards are uniquely qualified to give the Heat a real serious problem. And so if I can get a glimpse of what the Wizards can offer and they really can make it to another level in this Indiana series, then I might be willing to go on board and say that they could beat the Heat. So we'll have to see how that works. But it certainly feels like we're heading right toward that kind of a matchup. So jump in here, everybody. Keep asking questions. This is great. Let me go back and go through some more of these gameplays. I have a couple more clips that I grabbed I want to show you. Let's see here. Let me get them all set up here so I can find them. Or if I wrote them down. Oh, here we go. Let me get this one. And okay, I got one to show you here. I kind of got caught up in the game and I didn't write down as many plays, but we might go through the ending just to go through a couple of those last second shots here. Let's see here. Okay, so in the third quarter, speaking of the elevator play that we showed you before, they ran it again for Patty Mills, who hit a three, and it just gets me so excited to see that because when they're so versatile, they can run this play for so many different people. So let me get to the fourth quarter, 11. 16. Let's see if we can. Okay, so here we go. Let me jump a little farther forward. So Patty Mills brings the ball down the court. I know it's stuttered, but it's pretend like it's slow motion for you, okay? Okay, so watch. So Patty Mills is going to make a pass to the entry to the wing and cut through, okay? Now, here are the two guards. It doesn't look like horns because you don't have anybody in the corner here. And he can throw the ball to the wing. So that should have triggered right away something was up. And they don't really know it. In fact, here's what the key here is. By setting a cross screen, Patty Mills, man, gets so caught up with looking for the Bellinelli cut here that he is way behind. That was what happened. That's the key. If he just had run, turned, and went back up, then his man, Watson, would have probably just be able to follow him. Now, here's the thing. You can see Thomas Robinson and Aldridge, they're turned back. They see it. They know what's happening here. Now, one thing you could do is step in that way. Thomas Robinson, get closer here. Just get right his way. Don't let him run through it. The other way that we've seen that's effective is if Thomas Robinson, if he didn't do that, if he was on the other side of Diaw, would shoot the gap and either steal that pass or not let him pass it. Obviously, the problem is Diaw would then cut to the basket, but then you'd have to time it right where Watson would step in and either steal it or at least pick up Diaw. And stop him from scoring easily. But the elevator door's closed. Watson runs right into it. There's not a lot of room to get around there and not a lot of time, so it's like, what else are you going to do? But there's the elevator doors, nice and easy. Boom. Beautiful. Coach's porn. Love it. Love it more. I want more of that. So we'll have to spotlight some of that stuff coming up in our breakdown. And that's really great stuff that they do. So I love that Spurs offense, and you never know what's going to hit them because they had the loop. I didn't even see him run 25, which is when the shooting guard down screens for the center, 2-5, and then the center comes up and screens for the ball. Usually when you do that, there's no hedge because they had screened the center's man. He's out of position. I haven't even seen that. We don't see that much of the loop, and now what they're running the loop for, they're doing it with Bellinelli. They're doing it for Manu. They do it for Parker. And they all like to run it differently. Sometimes Parker comes back on the same side, and you have a different kind of flow each time. There's no way for the defense to really prepare. It's too many things to deal with. So in the third quarter, one of my notes was, and even though it got close, the Spurs were getting way more easy shots than the Blazers. The Blazers were hitting some of those shots to the tune they got the 20 points in that third quarter, but those shots were so difficult, it was outrageous. So they had a step back corner three by Barton, and then a pull up 20-footer with a hand running at him from behind. They had Thomas Robinson hitting a shot, which is always a strange thing for them. Again, I mentioned that the Blazers stuck with ice, and I really liked how they trusted in the process, and it will help them eventually, because the alternative is to switch the way you guard your pick and roll in game, and that's a nightmare. You can't be doing that kind of stuff if you haven't been working on it all season long. So let's see here. Let's go back to our questions, see what we have here. I'm sure we have some more. It looks like my thing has been scrolling along. And then let's go to the comment section and see if we have any comments from anybody on the YouTube side. Shall we? All right. It looks like it's too small. Let's get a little bigger, shall we? Okay. Coach, what do you think the effects will be on the Spurs Blazers with Mo Williams unlikely to go the rest of the series? We're gonna get. We better get some McCallum. McCollum, C.J. McCollum. I would love to see him play, get some experience at the very least. He looks like they're not. They look like they're not interested at all in playing him. But if they're down 3-0, they got to put him in and get some experience. But they'll no doubt go with Earl Watson and they'll go with Will Barton and see how he does. Will Barton's a question where you have to be able to get him in there, get what he can give you, and then get him out before he starts to kill you. And that's a real tricky game they're going to play. So. Let me just, before I keep going, I want to make sure we can tweet this link out and let everyone know we're here. Let me just real quick, ask questions with B-Ball Show. All right. So let me get back to our questions. So, yeah, it's a real problem, though, especially if Mo Williams is out, even though I don't even like Mo Williams' game. Coach, did you see the play late in the fourth where the Spurs ran and Weekend got Diallo for a big three? Absolutely. That was, I think, some out of their flex action there. There's just a flow to the offense. It never dies. And like we showed in our dribble pitch breakdown, they always have a counter and always have a flow. You'll never see them have to ISO and take a tough shot. Well, yes, I wear. These are just reading glasses. That's all. Do you feel the Rockets would have fared better against the Spurs, or else the Spurs? No, I think the Rockets match up almost exactly like the Spurs are, and I think the Spurs would match up well with them. The Rockets might have an ability to get a little bit hotter, in those streaks than maybe Portland, and maybe go on a run. But no, I don't see either of those teams doing too much. So yeah, the frame rate isn't great, but listen, I'm streaming HD video for you live. What do you expect? Thank you, Chris, for this is great stuff. I wonder if that's the Chris Herring. Coach, looks like this series will go 5 at the most. Yeah, I don't think it'll go much more than 5. Thanks for the Churro comment. Let's see here. Who's going to win the finals? I go with the Spurs. They're going to reclaim the finals they should have won last year. The Spurs run their elevator play twice. I'm glad that you saw that, Mew. Let's see here. How can Portland get back in the series? They're going to have to catch fire, and they're going to have to get a lot better play from obviously Aldridge and Lillard. If Aldridge and Lillard put together a game together and they both score 20-some points and shoot well, then they have a real chance. I'm not going to say they're guaranteed to win that game because you know what, Batum might be off or whatever, but they're going to have to get Aldridge and Lillard on the same page, playing well and shooting well and scoring well. No way Aldridge is going to keep shooting that like that. I thought so. I didn't think Aldridge would be able to keep it up for the whole series against Houston, but he did. So who knows? Do I care to do a video about the Spurs' flawless offensive system? I have done them, and I certainly will do it again. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, watching those plays, watching them pass the ball like that is really exciting. The Mavs was a wake-up call. Yeah, and don't forget, Rick Carlisle is a master, tactician. He knows better than anybody how to get them in positions where they're uncomfortable, they're not going to score as easy, even though he doesn't have a great defensive team. And then on the flip side, Carlisle really knew how to exploit what he needed to exploit to get his team going. Yeah, I think I just answered your question, so there you go, Mew. How long till Splitter becomes the next Shaquille O'Neal? Yeah, Splitter's hands are terrible. He doesn't catch well. He also shoots kind of screwy. Let me see if I can just quickly do this, where he shoots his jump hooks kind of like with his hand in front of him. So when you teach it, you kind of want the jump hook straight up and your body 90 degrees to the basket so you can use your wrists to flick it. He kind of shoots it with the, let's see if you can see this, no, like this. With his, instead of like this, he shoots it like this. Do you see that? So he's kind of throwing it a little bit with this weird push action instead of flicking it with his wrist. So it's a real problem that I think I would be able to help him with if I could get him speak Spanish. Wait, is Splitter from Argentina, or is he from like, yeah, he's Argentinian, right? He speaks Spanish. So let me go back to our YouTube questions. Let's see here. Where did my YouTube? Here we go. So, hello, Coach. Hi, Fear Milk. Oh, this thing scrolls automatically. I'm not really that excited about it. How do I record the gameplay clips? I have this thing called ITV, and it records right from my DVR. Stole this from Duke in '86. They ran it for Jock. Oh, did they really? So is that the elevator play you're talking about that they stole from Duke in '86? Because I'm going to do some research to find out what the history of the elevator play is. So let me know, PT1 Guard, if that's what you mean. Can Wall, Nene, and Gortat offer serious problems for the? Absolutely. That's what I've been trying to say a little bit on Twitter, but I want to prepare a big breakdown. There's no doubt in my mind that Nene can destroy. Actually, I'd love to see Nene and Bosch go at it. But they don't. The Heat do not match up very well at all against the Wizards at all. And I think the Wizards have a lot they can offer to guard. They have Ariza who can guard LeBron, and I would love to see Beal go at Dwayne Wade. That'd be exciting. Will Barton, I don't know if I've seen much development. I just think he needs to work on his body. He's too skinny. He needs to work on his balance. He goes too fast. Do I think Jody Meeks is a good fit for the Blazers? I don't think Will Barton is. Oh, yeah, if the Blazers got Jody Meeks, they'd be in really good shape. That would be a terrific pickup. But will Jody Meeks want to be a backup? I doubt it. If every team in the NBA called you to be a head coach, where would be my preference? Oh, my goodness. I don't know. I don't know why this keeps scrolling without it staying there. But anyway, I don't know. I wouldn't really have a preference. I mean, listen, yeah, I would coach the Spurs if I really had a choice. That would be awesome. But I would take any job anywhere. If the Bucks had Popovich as their head coach and Thibodeaux as one of their assistant coaches, how good would they be? They would be good. They would certainly be good. I don't know if they would be, top 3 because there's a deficit in talent. But man, they would be really good. They'd be good in any. They'd probably be decent in the Western Conference too. If they had Larry Sanders healthy and he was behaving. Lillard is having trouble with the Spurs because the Spurs have a really good interior defense with Duncan and Splitter. And so, Parker is quick and he does a nice job of funneling. He doesn't really know. I don't know if he really keeps him in front, but he funnels and they do a really good job of angling him away and also taking away the pass. Lillard isn't perfect at hitting that pass after he drives, and so they're kind of taking advantage of that too, assuming that he's just going to shoot it. So Splitter is just playing good old-fashioned man-to-man, mano-a-mano defense on LaMarcus Aldridge. There's not much you can say. He's just, I'm going to look a little bit more carefully to see if he's trying to force him to turn one way or one shoulder, but from what I can see, he's just playing positional defense. He's not gambling. He's just trying to get a hand up. So let's see here. Let me see if I can turn off this auto update thing so it won't keep scrolling on me. Nope. Okay. Do I watch Shaqtin' the Fool? I don't really. I mean, every once in a while I turn it on. Oh, okay, there we go. So Splitter speaks Portuguese. All right. Well, I can't speak Spanish with him, I guess. But let's see here. Yeah, we talked about the best way to beat the Spurs a little earlier, which was body up on them, make it physical as much as you can, get them out of their rhythm. Do I think the Rockets should have been playing the same defense as the Spurs? No, I mean the Rockets with when you have someone like Dwight Howard, you kind of play it a little bit differently. But I didn't even see much of a philosophy by the Rockets anyway, so I'm not sure. They could improve that a million fold. The Spurs coaches for and turn you on the most. I love what the Spurs. I think are the most interesting team for me to watch for sure. And I think the Wizards could make a deep run. Yeah. When will Kawhi be an All-Star? Wasn't he an All-Star? Am I going crazy this year? If he's not, he'll be one by next year without question. Um, the Lakers this offseason, yikes. I have no idea. I don't think they're going to sign a big name free agent. I just don't think anyone are out there that's going to go there. So they're going to have to just sort of cobble it together and get a good pick and see if they can if they can package a couple of assets and trade for something. But they're not going to sign any other big name free agents for sure. The Spurs play the Thunder next round. How do you see that round going? I think that the Spurs have enough to beat them. They got a guy who can guard, Kevin Durant with Kawhi. Russ is another animal, but I think that they can. I think they can handle that. I think they can handle what the Thunder have to offer without question. I don't watch Shaq in the Fool that much, but I think it's hilarious, and I think Shaq is hilarious. So Kawhi could very well be, what I tweeted out during the game was, if Kawhi continues on this path, then Russ can forget about winning an MVP because it's going to be Kawhi who's going to win that MVP. Hi MC. Hola. ¿Qué onda? Let's see here. If I could play 5 players on a team, which would they be? Oh my goodness. I don't know. It's a good question. I gotta think about that one. Yeah. Well, by the way, how has Kawhi improved his shooting? One of the things he does, by the way, if you haven't noticed, is the hop. He's a really big hop guy and does a fantastic attack off of it, and that's a real big part of it. So we talked about defense in the Portland a little bit. Yeah, same thing. Duke play for Hawkins. They looped in the box set, so technically it wasn't the elevator play. Okay, I'll have to check that out then. Why do I think Manziel fell? I have no idea. Maybe because he's not a nice guy. I have no idea. I'm barely aware there's a guy named Manziel that he sold didn't he sell his signatures or whatever. How much do I think age plays a role in the Spurs' championship hopes? I think it plays favorably for them because they have a great experience and they're still moving well. So the age isn't a detriment at all. It's only a positive. What do the Thunder do with Reggie Jackson after his contract is up? They should keep him. He's a real viable player, terrific guy. If you haven't seen it, we did a mini breakdown with him, a mini documentary 2 summers ago, and he'll only get better. Can the Clippers beat the Heat? Yeah, the Clippers could beat the Heat. They have enough, but they're thin. An ankle here or a bad foul trouble there, and they're in trouble. Yeah, Wizards would actually, they would destroy the glass against Miami for sure, although we've seen Miami overcome that, but and by the way, they could harass Wall and Beal into turnover after turnover, so that's one issue they'd have to be concerned about. Let's see here. Let's take a couple more questions, and then I think we'll wrap this up. This is a great first post-game show, and we'll be doing these a lot more, at least once a week through the playoffs. Why is Steve Kerr a coach to get? That's a good question. The thing about Steve Kerr that I wanted to bring up is here's an interesting dilemma or interesting concept it's very foreign to me, even just the notion, and that is Steve Kerr could very well be a guy who goes to the Knicks and coaches the triangle offense, but then if he gets the job with the Warriors, he probably wouldn't run the triangle offense there, and that does not compute. It's very strange because either you are or you aren't normally, and so I would be, it would be surprising to me if he went to the Warriors and then did and actually ran the triangle. That said, the triangle would be awesome for the Warriors. And listen, whenever anybody asks me how the triangle would fit in with this X team, I think it would be great. I think every team would benefit from running the triangle because I believe the triangle is that flexible. So what I would do if I were a head coach of the Knicks or the Warriors, whatever, if I sat down after getting hired, I would sit down with each and every player. And after talking for a little bit, I would say, listen, I would say, tell me, what is your favorite action? What is your most favorite way to get a shot off? And they would tell me, and I'd say, great. I'd write it all down, and then as we put the triangle in, I would make sure that we go over that action, which exists in the triangle in some way, for that player. And then every day we'll pick a different player and we'll drill that option after we build the triangle in, that option. And so we'll always have that. It's not a play because it's all organic, but we'll always have that notion of, okay, this is what you like to do. This is what you're really good at. This is going to get you the shot that you feel most comfortable. Here's the action we're going to have for you, and we're always going to have it in there built in. And so next thing you know, you do it enough and you get a nice rhythm, that ball goes there, they all know it's him, and they come around, they set that screen the way he wants it, bam, he gets that shot. You remember, most guys average, how many shots a game? The Durant gets 18, 20, the other guys get 10. So, a happy medium, let's say, 12 times a game, you got to be wary, maybe. But by the way, it's not all 12 shots the guy's going to get. You're only going to get, of those 12, how many do you actually really get of the ones that are your call? 1, 2, okay? So if you understand how the triangle works and you understand what they like and you can talk to them about it, let them decide. Let them decide. By the way, if they start missing the shots 30 games in the season, you're going to have to say, well, you know what? Let's move on. Let's find another action that's even better for you. So that's what I would do. That's how I would coach it, and I would assume that's how Steve Kerr would do it. Let's see here. Let me just peruse the to Twitter one last time. Maybe I won't screen share. But let's see here. Okay, looks like we kind of ran out of questions on Twitter. Wow. Oh, well, Stotts put Batum on Parker. If you can refresh my memory, did we see Batum on Parker? Because for sure he'll probably do that. I would do that to mix it up. Obviously, the problem then you have is that you got a little bit of a mismatch. But I think that Wes Matthews could flip over and guard Kawhi, and then you can leave Lillard on this. Wait, I'm getting all myself mixed up. Lillard, Batum could go on Parker. Wes Matthews can guard Kawhi, and that leaves Danny Green. Oh yeah, you could put Damian Lillard on Danny Green without question. In fact, that's what they did, I think. Anyway, so I would like to see that. That just to even give them a different look. Maybe once, twice, maybe a zone. I don't know if they have a zone, but a zone. That's where the coaching comes in. You have to really be able to mix it up and keep them guessing. Because here's the other thing about a zone defense. It's not always the stop you get in the zone. You might get scored on twice out of 3 times, right? But when you go back to man, you might get a steal or a stop primarily because you switched from zone to man again. And that's where you get an extra possession out of it, okay? Even though you're not running it, it's that switch, and that's what they need to do. So let's see here. What did Portland do to cause the drought following the second half? It's a good question. I don't know if Portland did much. They kind of missed some shots, and we'll have to really look at it closely. But I think there was a little bit of an increase in the physical stuff. They tried to bump them a little bit. They had a couple turnovers that were just bad, like nothing forced at all, and that was a big issue there. And then the free throws, they were 4 for 12 at one point, and that was what was killing them overall. It actually reminds me, we didn't go through the final. Let's go through the final box score to wrap up here. So our final box score is right here. Let's scroll down. Okay, so the final score here with 18 seconds ago, this was 114.97, that big run at the end of the fourth. So here's what we have here as a summation. So Batum got to 21 points on a very efficient 9 for 13. That's exactly what he would need to do, and he's what kept him in the game. That's a good output for him, and 9 rebounds is just great. Aldridge, 6 for 23 is weighing them down. Lillard, 8 for 20 is just, it's not quite there. It's not bad, but it's not quite there. 5 assists, but 1 for 6 from 3 was tough, and he took a lot of tough shots. Robin Lopez shouldn't really be getting 10 field goal attempts. How many offensive rebounds did he have? He had 7, so I'm assuming that most of those are related to that. And 9 rebounds. He did okay, but, it's so hard when you're the big man guarding the Spurs because you're just constantly moving. So that's a tough one. And Wes Matthews got into it a little bit and was giving them some good shots and stuff like that. So they're getting what they needed from Batum and Matthews. It's just, you can see Lillard needs to step up a little bit more, and Aldridge needs to play better and shoot better without question. And they got nothing from anybody else, really. Barton gave them that little bit of a lift, and that was it. By the way, if not for Barton even going off and hitting some crazy good shots, this game wouldn't even be close at all, ever. And then the final here, look at this. Kawhi Leonard, 8 for 9, 4 for 4 from 3. That's just sick, leading the team with a plus 13. Oh, no, he's a second splitter. 5 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. It's just, that's how you fill up a stat sheet. Tim Duncan didn't do that well, and so they have to be concerned that they can get by with, Ginobili did not shoot well, very well, but he did contribute with 5 boards and 4 assists. And Parker didn't shoot that well either, so it's a really big concern. He got 10 assists because he was really setting guys up and doing nicely there, but you have to be concerned when the big three combined for, that's got to be below 40%, I'd imagine. I got to look at the numbers. And they get blown out. That's a real problem. They're not forcing turnovers. I don't think Portland forces a lot of turnovers anyway. And so this all really leads to me thinking that Portland doesn't have the best chance in the world. And I have to go with, I would be surprised if the Spurs lost, more than 1 game in the series right now. But we've seen it before. We did see them against OKC a couple of years ago, do very well, go up 2-0, and then just completely get dried up. Remember, part of that was Tony Parker getting injured, but playing through it, and no one ever really knew what the extent was, and no one's going to know because they don't talk about it. So, and by the way, I think the same thing happened last year in the finals. I think Tony Parker got hurt because he was eviscerating the Heat, and then the last 3 games he was just not himself. And again, they don't talk about it. No one will really ever know. But without a doubt, he was off, and they would have won had he had another 10% of a gear left. So, well, this is an awesome post-game show. I'm going to yank it down, re-download it, and repost it so it's a real normal video as soon as we do this tonight, so you can all watch it again if you missed it or missed part. But don't forget, we got some great stuff. I got a court call coming up tomorrow, going over some of the plays from the second round already. And we'll have a lot more of that coming up, and we'll try and do quick hitters with that as well, where if a really big egregious call happens and I can get Ronnie into his office, we'll try and do it right then and there. So anyway, thanks for joining us, sports fans. Amazing stuff. Great interaction on Twitter, by the way, since the playoffs started. I can't thank you enough. It's been awesome. Don't be surprised if I reply to you. People sometimes freak out, but I reply to everybody because don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?